Hey, welcome back to Cedar Studios Web Design. On a recent video about making a landing page in Astro and CodeStitch, I got some questions on how you make a full website, how do you make multiple pages and navigate between them. So that's what I'm going to show you today. To begin, I have an Astro project already configured. I won't show you how I do that. You can watch the old video for that. And it just has this main page, an index file that says homepage. And this is being routed into a base layout. I also covered that in the previous video, where I have this boilerplate HTML, and then here, anything from this index page or any other page I make later is just going to go into this slot component. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put a nav bar at the top that I'll get from CodeStitch. So I'll go to CodeStitch, I'll grab the HTML, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a new folder called components, and a new component called nav, and that's where I'm going to put this HTML. And in the layout, not an individual page, because I don't want to add this component to every single page I make. I want to add it to all pages by just referencing it one time. So I'm going to do that here in the base layout by putting in my nav component, and then up here I'm just going to need to import that. So import nav from components. And I should mention, I already took the core styles from CodeStitch and I put them in a CSS before I started this. Okay, so if I go here, I'll see I have this stuff. It just needs its regular styles for this particular stitch, and it's going to need some JavaScript as well. That's for the mobile view of this thing. So let's go to nav. I'll shrink down the HTML. I'll add a style tag with the CSS in there, paste it, and then I'll collapse this. And so this should be, yep, this looks good now, but it won't work on mobile. Yeah, this button does nothing. So we need JavaScript to enable that. So I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to add a script tag. It's very much like a style tag in Astro. It's going to be scoped to this particular component. And it's also going to be bundled like the CSS is. Now, it threw up some warnings. It's just saying like this variable could be null in the DOM eventually. Oops. And we can fix that by putting this question mark operator, which just checks if something's null before it tries to call a method or look for a property or something like that. Or if we don't want to do that and we want to leave the code as is, we can add a directive to the script tag called isInline. And that just means it tells Astro, leave this script alone, don't try to optimize it, and don't bundle it, just send it straight to the browser, which is the same as if you were using like an HTML template. You weren't using Astro at all. So this will work well for now. So I come in here, I check this out, go to the mobile, and now this is working. Perfect. Okay, so you'll notice that there are all these links, but if I click them, nothing's going to happen. So if I go into the HTML, what I can see is where this navigation list is. There's this unordered list here with 5 list items that correspond to these 5 links here. Then there's another anchor link down here. That's for the contact us button. So let's just start by addressing these. Right now, they're anchor links and they don't have any href tag or destination, so you click on them and nothing's going to happen. And then they have names that correspond to pages that aren't even there. So what I want to do now is I want to like rip out all of this, and instead of hard coding it, make it dynamic based on what pages I actually have in my website. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some more pages. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I can see the name of this page. It got kind of covered up by this navigation component, so I'm just going to do like some really basic CSS here and just say padding top of like 100 pixels. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now that I can see which page I'm on, I'm going to make a couple new pages in here. I'll just copy it and rename it About, and this can be like an About Us page. And then I will make another copy and call this one Services. This can be our Services page. So Astro is going to automatically route every page that is in this special pages folder. So if I go to About, I'll see I'm on the About Us page. And of course this nav bar is still here because I put it in the layout. So anything that goes into this base layout tag, any of these pages is going to have this nav bar, which is super handy. Okay, and then I can also go to Services, and that's there too. So let's just go back to the home page for now. I'll close these out. So I have my pages, and next what I want to do is in the navigation, I want to like just walk through a list of all these pages instead of having to write each one by hand. So my favorite way to do this is to make a new file. I'll put it in its own folder, and I'll call it navdata.json. I like to suffix it with TypeScript, which just lets me type it a little bit differently in the file, but it's still a JSON. So I'm going to export a variable called nav links, which will be the links that correspond with these. It's going to be an array. And it's going to be an array of objects, and each object is going to pertain to one of these links. And so I'm going to want a property called text, which is the display text, and for the first link it'll be home. And then I'm going to want an href property. In this case, it'll just be a single slash for the root of my website. So now what I'll do is I'll copy these and I'll start naming these like about us. This can be the display name. It can be different than the actual page name, but then down here I need the page name to just be about. And then here we'll do services, and again route it to services. So now I have a data file that has an array, and each element of the array is going to specify what this link should say and where it should go. So I'm going to head back to Nav here. I'm going to import this data in the front matter. Nav links from the JSON. I don't need the TypeScript suffix here, just JSON is fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these links for now, just comment them out. And I'm going to use like my favorite Astro feature, which is writing JSX within your HTML file. I love that as someone who has a React background and is used to writing JavaScript kind of like it's HTML. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this nav links array and I'm going to map it. And that just means I'm going to step through it one link at a time and grab some data from it. So I'm actually going to, before I do this, I'll comment that out for now. I'm going to come back up here to the front matter and console log out these nav links. I'll open my console and you can see them right here. So when you console log something in the front matter, this is great for debugging, by the way. It's just going to show up right here in your VS Code console. So I can see I have an array and I have objects, and each object has a text property and an href property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to use a JavaScript function called map, which means I'm going to step through this array each time and I'm going to do something. So for every, we'll call it entry in here, I'm going to return something. That's what these parentheses means. It's an implicit return if you know about JavaScript and arrow functions. I'm not going to get too deep into the JavaScript in this video. And I need to return something. So what I'm going to return actually is one of these list items. So if I do that now, since it's still hard-coded, the name's hard-coded and the href is, it's just going to make this 3 times because that's the length of my list. So now I just need to change this link to be my entry.href, and I need to change this text to be my entry.text. And there we go. Now I have these links that are properly titled, and if you click on each one, you're going to go to the right place. And that's pretty much it for the main navigation. Now one thing I might want to do is declare one of these links, whichever one I'm on the page currently, to be active. Give it an active class, which is already set up in CodeStitch, and that's going to just leave this little orange line underneath it. So what I'm going to do here is under class, I want to conditionally apply a class. The way I'm going to do that here is I'm going to use something that's really handy called the class list directive in Astro, which just allows me to pass in multiple class names in a list. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if astro.url.pathname, that's going to grab from Astro the page that we're already on. I'm going to say if that thing equals the entry.href, so as I build this, as I build the home page and the about page and the services page, it's going to say, okay, I'm on the home page, so that, this slash that got taken off by the browser here matches the href here, so this is going to be active. And then about us does not match a single slash, so it's not going to be active, and same with services. So I'm going to say if these things are equal, I'm going to start a ternary here, so question mark. If it's true, I want to add on csActive as a class name. Again, that's already configured for you in CodeStitch. And then if it's not true, if it's false, then I'm just going to do an empty string. And so I save this, and now what it's saying is, okay, this first link is home, we're on the home page, put an underline under it. Same thing with the about section, services section. Whenever you go to one of these things, it's just automatically going to be there. So that is about it for generating a dynamic navigation menu that is stuck on the page no matter where you go. So just to recount those steps, I had my index page. It was all going into a base layout. I made a navigation component and I put it here in this base layout. And then here what I did after I built my nav data with all of my links going to my different pages, I simply mapped through this array of nav data links, and then I dynamically put in the href and the text for the link. And that's about it. You can see if you go on mobile too, you're going to get these links here as well. All right, if you like this video, if you had any questions, please let me know in the comments.